Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to keep someone close, the faster they seem to move away? The more attention you give, the less they value it. The more available you become, the less important you appear. At first, this feels unfair. After all, you are giving effort, loyalty, time, and care. You believe these things should bring people closer. But human nature does not always reward effort. In many cases, it rewards value. And value is often felt most strongly when it is not constantly available. Most people make the same mistake. When they fear losing someone, they increase their efforts. They send more messages. They ask for more attention. They try harder to impress. They explain themselves again and again. They become easier to access and easier to predict. They believe this will create security. Instead, it often creates the opposite effect. What started as affection slowly becomes pressure. What started as interest slowly becomes neediness. And people naturally move away from what feels like pressure. Machiavelli understood something that many people refuse to accept. Human beings are not guided only by logic. They are guided by desire, curiosity, pride, and perception. People often chase what seems valuable, and value is rarely associated with desperation. The moment someone feels that you are trying too hard to keep them, the balance of power changes. They stop wondering about you because everything is already available. They stop investing because you are doing all the work. Without realizing it, you teach them that your attention has no cost. This is why many people lose respect while trying to gain love. They believe more effort will solve everything. But there is a difference between genuine care and excessive pursuit. One creates attraction. The other destroys it. Today, you will learn a principle that is simple but powerful. If you try too hard, you push him away. If you understand human nature, you create the conditions that make people come closer on their own. This is not about manipulation. It is about understanding value, self-respect, and the hidden laws that govern attraction and attention. Once you understand these laws, you will stop chasing. And when you stop chasing, something unexpected begins to happen. The first thing you must understand is that people appreciate what requires investment. This principle appears everywhere in life. People value the things they work for more than the things handed to them, without effort. A person who builds something with his own hands often values it more than a gift received for free. The same principle applies to relationships. When someone receives unlimited attention without earning it, that attention slowly loses its impact. At first, they may enjoy it. They may even welcome it. But over time, the emotional value decreases. What was once special becomes normal. What was once exciting becomes expected. Human beings adapt quickly. They stop noticing what is always there. This is where many people make a costly mistake. They think consistency means constant availability. They believe loyalty means never creating distance. They assume that if they keep giving more, they will receive more in return. But relationships do not operate like simple transactions. Attraction is influenced by perception, and perception is influenced by scarcity. Think about the people who command respect in any social environment. They are not always the loudest. They are not always the most attractive. Often, they are simply the people who value their own time. Their attention is not given to everyone. Their approval is not easy to obtain. Their presence feels meaningful because it is not constantly offered. Machiavelli would tell you that power begins with self-control. The person who cannot control his need for attention becomes dependent on others. The person who constantly seeks validation gives away power with every attempt to receive it. When your emotional state depends entirely on another person's responses, you place your peace in their hands. This dependence is often invisible at first. It starts with small actions. You check your phone repeatedly. You wait anxiously for a reply. You feel disappointed when a message takes longer than expected. You start adjusting your mood according to someone else's behavior. Slowly, your focus shifts away from your own life and toward theirs. The dangerous part is that people can sense this dependence. They may not consciously identify it, but they feel it. Human beings naturally recognize confidence and insecurity. Confidence creates space. Insecurity demands reassurance. Confidence attracts. Insecurity pressures. When you try too hard, you communicate a hidden message. That message says, "My happiness depends on your attention." This creates an imbalance. Instead of standing beside someone as an equal, you begin standing beneath them, waiting for approval. Ironically, the more approval you seek, the less likely you are to receive genuine respect. Respect grows when people see that you have standards, priorities, and a life that exists beyond them. It grows when your identity is not dependent on their validation. Consider how strong leaders operate. They listen, but they do not beg to be heard. They care, but they do not chase acceptance from everyone around them. Their strength comes from internal stability. They know who they are even when others disagree with them. The same principle applies to personal relationships. If your entire focus revolves around keeping someone interested, you unknowingly communicate that you have little else demanding your attention. This lowers your perceived value, because value is often linked to purpose. A person with goals, discipline, and direction naturally becomes more attractive, not because they are pretending to be unavailable, but because they genuinely have a meaningful life. Their attention becomes valuable, because it competes with important responsibilities and ambitions. This is the difference between playing hard to get and actually being difficult to replace. One is an act, the other is a reality. Many people attempt to create attraction through tactics. They delay responses on purpose. They pretend not to care. They follow complicated rules designed to create mystery. These strategies may create short-term effects, but they rarely create lasting respect. Real power does not come from pretending. It comes from becoming. When you build a life filled with purpose, growth, and self-respect, you naturally stop over-pursuing people. You no longer need constant reassurance, because your sense of worth comes from within. You enjoy connection, but you do not depend on it for survival. And this change creates a powerful shift. People notice when someone stops seeking validation. They notice when someone becomes calm instead of desperate. They notice when someone's attention feels earned rather than guaranteed. This is where attraction often begins to grow. Not when you are trying your hardest to impress, but when you are no longer obsessed with being chosen. Because the truth is simple. People are drawn toward those who choose themselves first. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. Not out of selfishness, but out of strength. And once you understand this principle, you begin to see why so many people fail despite having good intentions. Their problem is not that they care too much. Their problem is that they abandon themselves while caring for someone else. The moment you begin chasing someone, a psychological shift takes place. Most people never notice it because it happens quietly. They believe they are showing affection, commitment, or interest. But beneath the surface, something else is happening. They are communicating urgency. And urgency changes how people perceive value. Machiavelli understood that people are strongly influenced by perception. What matters is not only what you do, but what your actions suggest. When someone sees you constantly trying to gain their attention, they begin to ask an unconscious question. Why is this person working so hard for something that should happen naturally? This question may never be spoken aloud, but it affects how they feel. Human beings often trust feelings before logic. If your behavior communicates abundance, people feel your value. If your behavior communicates scarcity, people feel that too. This is why chasing often creates resistance. The harder you push, the more the other person feels the need to create space. It is not always because they dislike you. Sometimes it is because excessive attention removes the freedom that attraction needs to survive. People want connection, but they also want autonomy. They want to feel that they are making their own choices. The moment they feel pressured, even subtly, they begin protecting their independence. This is a natural human response. Think about a simple example. Imagine someone asks for your attention once. It feels normal. Imagine they ask 10 times. Suddenly it feels different. The request may be the same, but the emotional weight has changed. What once felt like interest now feels like demand. Many relationships suffer because one person mistakes pressure for effort. They believe that if they continue proving themselves, The other person will eventually appreciate them. But attraction rarely grows through pressure. More often, pressure creates emotional exhaustion. The reason is simple. Nobody wants to feel responsible for another person's emotional stability. When someone senses that your happiness rises and falls according to their actions, they begin carrying a burden they never agreed to carry. This burden slowly changes the dynamic. Conversations feel heavier. Interactions feel less natural. What once felt enjoyable starts feeling like an obligation. And obligations rarely inspire desire. Machiavelli would advise you to observe reality rather than your wishes. Reality shows that people invest more in what they fear losing. This does not mean you should create artificial games. It means you should stop making yourself endlessly available. When your attention is always present, it becomes predictable. When it becomes predictable, it loses impact. Human nature often overlooks what is guaranteed. This principle can be seen everywhere. People ignore opportunities they assume will always exist. They postpone important actions because they believe there will always be another chance. Certainty often breeds complacency. The same thing happens in relationships. If someone believes your attention is permanent regardless of how they behave, they stop valuing it at the same level. Not because they are cruel, but because human beings naturally adapt to what they receive consistently. This is why emotional distance, when healthy and genuine, can be powerful. Distance creates perspective. It allows people to feel your absence. It gives them the opportunity to recognize your value without constant reminders. Many people fear creating any distance at all. They think distance means loss. They think stepping back means giving up. In reality, strategic distance often reveals truths that constant pursuit hides. When you step back, you discover who is willing to move forward. When you stop carrying every conversation, you see who makes an effort. When you stop initiating every interaction, you learn who actually values the connection. These answers are uncomfortable because they remove illusions. Chasing allows people to avoid reality. As long as they keep pursuing, they can convince themselves that the relationship is growing. Stepping back forces them to face the truth. And truth is power. Machiavelli believed that effective people do not operate from fantasy. They study reality, even when reality is unpleasant. They prefer uncomfortable truth over comforting deception. If someone only responds when you initiate, that information matters. If someone only invests when convenient, that information matters. If someone consistently gives less than they receive, that information matters. Many people ignore these signs because they are attached to potential. They focus on what the person could become rather than what the person consistently demonstrates. This is a dangerous habit. Human beings reveal themselves through repeated actions. Words can create hope, but actions reveal priorities. A person may tell you that they care, but if their behavior repeatedly shows indifference, behavior deserves more attention than promises. The strongest individuals understand this. They do not become angry. They do not beg for change. They observe, they learn, and then they adjust their investment accordingly. This ability to adjust is a form of emotional intelligence. Weakness keeps giving without evaluation. Strength evaluates before giving more. Many people think strength means becoming cold. It does not. Strength means remaining emotionally balanced. It means caring without becoming consumed. It means loving without losing self-respect. When you stop trying too hard, something remarkable happens. Your attention becomes intentional rather than automatic. Your actions become choices rather than reactions. Instead of constantly seeking reassurance, you begin observing reality. And reality often tells a very different story than emotion. Emotion says, try harder and things will improve. Reality asks, has trying harder improved anything so far? Emotion says, if you give enough, they will finally understand your value. Reality asks, why must value be constantly proven? Emotion says, do not step back or you may lose them. Reality asks, if a small amount of distance destroys the connection, how strong was the connection to begin with? These questions are uncomfortable because they challenge deeply held beliefs. Yet they are necessary if you want genuine respect and genuine attraction. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to those who can separate emotion from observation. Not because emotions are useless, but because emotions can distort judgment when left unchecked. The person who constantly chases is often reacting emotionally. The person who steps back and evaluates is acting strategically. Strategy is not manipulation. Strategy is awareness. It is understanding that not every relationship deserves unlimited effort. It is understanding that your time, energy, and attention are valuable resources. It is understanding that self-respect requires boundaries. The irony is that many people become more attractive the moment they stop trying to convince others of their worth. They stop explaining. They stop overgiving. They stop forcing outcomes. And because of that, they appear stronger, calmer, and more confident. People naturally gravitate toward this energy. Not because it is mysterious, not because it is a trick, but because it signals abundance rather than need. And abundance has always been attractive. So what should you do instead? If chasing creates resistance, if excessive effort lowers your value, and if constant pursuit weakens attraction, then what is the alternative? The answer is simple, but not easy. Build a life so meaningful that your attention becomes a gift, not a plea. Most people focus on being chosen. They spend their energy trying to become important in someone else's life. Machiavelli would advise the opposite. Become important in your own life first. This changes everything. When your days are filled with purpose, growth, discipline, and personal goals, you naturally stop obsessing over one person's reaction. You still care. You still appreciate connection. But your entire identity is no longer attached to whether someone responds, approves, or stays. This is where true confidence begins. Confidence is not believing everyone will want you. Confidence is knowing you will be fine, even if they do not. That mindset creates a powerful shift in behavior. You stop acting from fear. You stop making decisions based on anxiety. You stop trying to secure affection at any cost. Instead, you begin operating from choice. And choice is power. Machiavelli understood that dependence creates vulnerability. The more you need something, the less control you have over it. The more desperate you become for someone's attention, the more power you place in their hands. But when you are emotionally grounded, the dynamic changes. You enjoy their presence, but you do not require it. You appreciate their attention, but you do not depend on it. You value the relationship, but you do not sacrifice your self-respect to preserve it. This balance is attractive because it reflects strength. Strength is not loud. Strength is not aggressive. Strength is calm. A strong person does not panic when someone becomes distant. They observe. They assess. They respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Most people do the opposite. The moment they sense distance, they rush forward. The moment they feel uncertainty, they seek reassurance. The moment they fear loss, they increase pursuit. Unfortunately, these reactions often create the very outcome they fear. People respect those who respect themselves. This is one of the most important truths about human nature. When you constantly tolerate neglect, disrespect, or one-sided effort, you teach people how to treat you. You communicate that your standards are flexible whenever emotions are involved. Over time, this weakens your position. But when you establish healthy boundaries, something different happens. You communicate that your time matters, your energy matters, your attention matters, and most importantly, your self-respect matters. Boundaries are not walls. They are standards. They do not exist to punish others. They exist to protect your value. Many people fear boundaries because they worry about losing someone. Yet the absence of boundaries often creates the very loss they fear. Without boundaries, resentment grows. Without boundaries, imbalance grows. Without boundaries, respect slowly disappears. Machiavelli would remind you that respect is often maintained through limits. People naturally test what they can receive. If there are no limits, they continue taking. Not always out of malice, but because human nature follows the path of least resistance. This is why you must learn to invest where investment is returned. Give attention to those who appreciate it. Give effort to those who reciprocate it. Give loyalty to those who deserve it. Stop treating every relationship as if it requires unlimited sacrifice. Not every connection deserves equal access to your time and energy. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that persistence can create attraction where genuine interest does not exist. Sometimes it can increase familiarity. Sometimes it can create temporary attention. But lasting attraction requires willingness from both sides. No amount of chasing can replace mutual desire. No amount of effort can substitute genuine interest. No amount of sacrifice can force someone to value what they have already decided to overlook. This truth may seem harsh, but it is also liberating. Because once you accept it, you stop wasting energy trying to control outcomes you cannot control. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop performing for approval. You stop exhausting yourself in battles that cannot be won through effort alone. Instead, you redirect that energy toward becoming stronger, toward improving your mind, toward improving your health, toward building your future, toward creating a life that feels meaningful with or without anyone's validation. Ironically, this is often when attraction begins to appear, not because you are seeking it, but because you no longer need it. Neediness repels. Self-respect attracts. Desperation weakens. Purpose strengthens. Chasing creates pressure. Confidence creates space. And within that space, people are free to choose. The strongest position is not making someone stay. The strongest position is knowing that if they choose to leave, you will continue moving forward. That is real power, because power is not controlling others. Power is controlling yourself. Power is not forcing attention. Power is becoming someone whose attention has value. Power is not begging to be chosen. Power is choosing yourself first. This is the lesson most people learn too late. They spend years chasing acceptance, approval, affection, and validation. They run after people who give little in return. They exhaust themselves trying to earn what should have been given freely. Then one day they discover a simple truth. The more they respected themselves, the more others respected them. The more they focused on their own growth, the more attractive they became. The more willing they were to walk away from what did not value them. The more valuable they appeared, not because they changed who they were, but because they stopped abandoning themselves. And that is the difference between weakness and strength. Weakness says, "What must I do to keep them?" Strength says, "What kind of life must I build so that I never lose myself?" Remember this. The person who fears losing everyone eventually loses himself. The person who values himself never has to chase anyone for long, because the right people recognize value, and those who do not were never meant to hold power over your peace. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.